So I'm gonna get back to this book again because that's obviously the most popular read. Um, I just wanted to point out, however, one thing real quick, or maybe two. Um, these other books on addiction will help too. It doesn't hurt to like expose yourself to other methods of quitting. Um, so it only helps you further understand what your options are and etc. Um, but not only that, like when I'm doing other things that aren't even related to addiction, that can still kind of help because like there's something about learning through books that when I read, I know that I'm getting better at emotional regulation because I learned a while ago that reading every day does that. Um, so, and another thing is like when you get good at one other thing, sometimes it helps you get better at the other thing. It doesn't always transfer over 100% of the time, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't hurt to try. Better to be it's better, sometimes it's better to be a master of none when you're so good at everything else, uh, when you're so good at like everything. it's a it's a jack of all trades. It's better to be a jack of all trades and a master of none sometimes, because you can do like everything that revolves around whatever your goal happens to be. uh, I hopefully explained that. So right back to where we were in the book. So again, this is nicotine addiction specifically, but he also wrote on alcoholism and having different. If you have more than one addiction, it will help even more to learn other methods or about other addictions too. Okay, I enjoy the ritual. A lot of people are attracted to smoking by the paraphernalia, cigarette packets, lighters, boxes, or matches, ashtrays, etc. Vaping has created the same kind of thing based around which device, which vape juice, which flavor. All have a certain style that appeals to young people in need of an identity. A, a lot of long-term smokers will also tell you that this is what they enjoy about smoking. The inference is that they wouldn't smoke if it wasn't for the ritual of opening the packet, handling the cigarette, striking the lighter. I want you to go through your usual right now. Focus on each part of it. Open the packet, taking out a cigarette, putting it in between your lips. Do everything you usually do. Take your lighter, light the cigarette. Are you paying attention? Okay, now stop. Stop out the cigarette immediately without taking another puff. Put the lighter away. How do you feel? If you were worried about wasting a cigarette by only having one puff, don't even light it. Just put it straight back in the packet. Are you satisfied? I suspect you're not. No smoker smokes for the ritual. If they did, they would be happy to stop short of lighting the cigarette. Imagine that. You could spare yourself all the harmful part and still have the enjoyment. But it doesn't work like that, does it? Smokers only enjoy the ritual of smoking because it's a necessary route to getting their fix. Remember, the only reason why anyone smokes or vapes or uses dip or any other nicotine devices is to get the nicotine. It's just a habit. When smokers find themselves running out of excuses, the result to a more resigned explanation as to why they smoke. It's just a habit. They're no longer trying to convince themselves or anyone else that they're in control. But there is still the implication that smoking gives them some kind of pleasure or crutch. It's essential to understand that you smoke because you're addicted to a drug, and drug addiction is not a habit. A habit is a repeated behavior that you do for the familiarity and comfort of repetition. But you don't smoke for the comfort of repetition. You smoke to get nicotine to reveal the withdrawal pangs from the previous cigarette and ease the mental aggravation caused by the big monster. If you believe that you smoke because you've fallen into the habit, you will find it hard to quit. You will assume that it's just a weakness in your nature that made you susceptible to the habit. But when you accept that smoking is an addiction and you understand the nature of the nicotine trap, it's easy to follow the instructions to escape. Get this clear in your mind. The habit of smoking might trigger the thought of having a cigarette, but that's not why you smoke. In the past, when you've attempted to quit, the habit trigger has caused you to mope for a cigarette. But remember that was when your big monster was still alive. You missed cigarettes. You felt deprived. This time, when you quit, you won't feel like you're missing out on anything. So if you habitually experience a trigger, getting off a bus, for example, it'll be a moment of happiness, a moment you can remind yourself how lucky you are to be free, rather than a moment of concern. I know you'll find that hard to believe at this point, but I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm saying, just on principle. That's all you need to do as we work through this program. A further problem with seeing smoking as a habit is that it encourages the belief that you can moderate it so you can have the occasional cigarette without falling into the trap again. Get it clear in your mind. There is no such thing as just the one. If you smoke one, what's to stop you from smoking the next one and the next? If you retain the desire for just one cigarette, you will not escape the trap. Easy Way removes the temptation. The belief that you smoke out of habit makes smokers feel stupid. One part of your brain is telling you, you're a fool, stop doing it. Another part is saying, I'm helpless to resist the temptation. In fact, smokers are not stupid. They are being conned by a fiendish force called addiction. The temptation exists because you have been brainwashed into believing a myth that smoking gives you some kind of pleasure or crutch, even when you reach the point where you can no longer convince yourself that you are getting any pleasure or crutch from smoking. The temptation to go on smoking remains. It is driven by fear. How will I be able to cope without cigarettes? What smokers don't realize is that the cigarette, far from relieving this fear, causes it. Non-smokers don't suffer it. The problem is that it works back to front. It's when you're not smoking that you notice the empty, insecure feeling that smoking causes. When you light up, the feeling is partially relieved and your brain is fooled into believing that the cigarette is your friend. This is how smoking creates the illusion of pleasure. The more it drags you down, the more you believe you need your friend, and the more dependent on the drug you become. In order to remove the temptation, all you have to do is see through the illusion of pleasure. Recognize that the empty, insecure feeling you experience when you're not smoking is nicotine craving caused by smoking, and that the pleasure you feel when you smoke is merely the temporary partial relief of that craving and the pacification of the big monster in your mind. Exercise. Define the pleasure. Assuming you've continued to smoke as you've been reading this book, light a cigarette now. Inhale 6 deep, glorious lungfuls of carcinogenic filth. Ask yourself, what is so pleasant? What do you actually enjoy about it? If you vape, do the same. What are you actually enjoying about it? Remember, this is a little pleasure or crutch that you thought you couldn't live without. Now is your chance to really identify what that pleasure or crutch amounts to. Hold the smoke or vape in your mouth or lungs and focus on the taste. Let the smoke vapor linger in your nostrils or mouth and focus on the smell. Is it pleasant? You may well feel a sense of relaxation. It's the same as taking off tight shoes. Would you deliberately wear tight shoes just for the relief of taking them off? supposed to be the second day next time, but they put too much information in one day. All right, see you guys later.